welcome back to the Robin Tibbins Show. Today, our guest is Stanley Greene, a global human and economic development leader. He helps people around the world strive to improve themselves professionally, emotionally, and financially. He is the co-founder of the Resiliency School and the president and CEO of PowerThinking Corporation. Welcome to the show, Stan.
Robert, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Excited to be here.
Absolutely. And I'm excited to have you here because, I really want to know what you got going on. It looks like the last decade you have been rocking and moving and putting things into action. But let's step back a bit. You know, who stand before the last decade? Because it looks like you had, you really started the power thinking, which we'll get into. I want to find out who stand before and how he worked towards the power thinking.
Well, as you mentioned this, a number of thoughts came to mind, and of course, one of the things that we talk about with our training is that we have 50,000 thoughts that our brains are processing every day. Usually, a thought every second and a half. And a couple of thoughts came to mind immediately when you talked about, whoa, who's Stan, and going all the way back. And I think about my mother who told me when I was a toddler, and she would. If I fell down or something, and she tried to help me, and I would say no, 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 and I would insist that I can figure it out myself, and I can bounce back. And another memory that comes to mind was when I was in first grade. Kind of give you a little bit about who I am, and taking what I do today, many decades later, all the way back then. In first grade, I can recall, I don't remember much else beyond this, and that is that I had people sitting next to me, young people, we're all first graders, of course, and folks were having trouble writing their names. Of course, with my mother working with her children, it was no big deal for us, but for some children, it was a big task, and I would actually go over it and help my neighbors write their names, and the teacher would actually come to me and point her finger. Miss Winston, I'll never forget. She said, "Don't do it again." And I can understand now. Of course, I was a little emotional then. It was like, well, I'm just trying to help people, but she wanted them to be able to help themselves. But the reality is, we go through life, we find that not everybody can just figure it out themselves. And in fact, one of the inner strengths of what resilience, there's these 7 inner strengths that are evidence-based. And one of the most important is reaching out, for people to actually reach out for help, and that it's a strength and not a weakness. So kind of moving forward, there were a number of experiences that I had in my life, witnessing my mom bounce back from adversity when my dad left her and my 5 siblings, and
Oh, wow, yeah.
struggling through, having a house going into foreclosure. We never knew about this, but she was dealing with that, dealing with nervous breakdowns, but bouncing back, but always bouncing back, and ensuring that we were okay and we were moving forward. Then fast forward to my first experience as an 8th grader with sports. Well, not first with sports, but with basketball. I used to play a little sandlot football. But then with basketball, I never played it. But during the before school started, I would watch the kids who knew how to play, and that's how we kill time. We just the ones on the sideline. We couldn't play. One day they were shorthanded, and they said, "Hey, you, come on in and play." And I said, "I can't play. I don't know how to play." They said, "Oh, come on." They figured, you look like you can play. Come on. And I get in and I get the ball, and I'm traveling with it. I didn't even know how to dribble. And the next day I was teased, and on the way to school on the bus, "Hey, Stan, you're gonna mess up again." And I was determined that I was going to learn that game and be good at it. A few years later, I'm getting offers to go to Temple University and play basketball, Davidson, and Yale, and I wound up going to the University of Pennsylvania, coached by Hall of Fame coach Chuck Daly, who
Wow, that's cool.
wound up going and winning back-to-back championships with the Bad Boys Detroit Pistons, and coaching the first Dream Team with Larry Bird and Michael Jordan and all of those folks. But he coached me and actually helped me develop. So we had our ups and downs, and so it was kind of managing through all of that. It stayed with me, and then there was the career. So I wanted to give you that first half up to the career and some of the experiences that I carry with me to this day.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of people can relate to five siblings and a mom. I had three siblings and a mom, single mom. You know, sadly, I call him a biological father. And my stand, because I don't know him, you know, he showed up when I was 13 for 45 minutes, thought that was the greatest thing he could ever do for me. And then I never seen him till I was in my early 20s because I went to him. And then I realized this guy's nothing to me, and he's providing no value to me in any manner, and he's not taking responsibility to what he did to my mom that actually made her leave. But what I seen, you know, which I think you didn't elaborate a lot on, but I'm sure there's a lot more layers going on there that I seen the power of what a woman could do, right? You know, raising five in your case, three in my case. My mom worked four jobs, raising three children, and sometimes we had to go visit her at the work in order to see her
Yes,
or to eat. Like
yes,
she was a you know a waitress, and we knew the you know the place. Every Saturday we were there eating you know our meals while she worked all day and you know did her best to feed us and stuff. But I absolutely understand that part. I think that's amazing that you know that's resiliency right there, right? You know the
it
stuff
is.
that puts us through things. Um, but yeah, talk. You put a lot of in there, and I appreciate that. Let's go into where you know you got power thinking going.
Sure.
So what made you get into this, and what is power thinking?
Well, again, I had been into it all my life, watching my mother bouncing back myself, and then once graduating from University of Pennsylvania, I went into a management training program with the telephone company. It was all part of AT&T at the time, and then I was there when they broke up the companies. But it was interesting because even as a young 22-year-old, I was given an assignment that they thought was impossible to turn around. And I did it in 9 months as a 22-year-old. And then they moved me outside to manage a crew of construction folks. You've ever seen the people on the bucket trucks with their helmets on and working on the
Oh yeah.
telephone wires, and the folks in the manholes underground. I mean, as a 23-year-old, I had a guy. My youngest one was 34. My oldest was 64, and they were underperforming. And I had to figure out a way to turn them around. And I didn't know construction, so I had to rely on the strengths of my being and who I was, and connect with them, build trust, and then somehow get them to improve. And we did. And it was just assignment after assignment with the telephone company, whether it was customer service or engineering. I was an engineer, and then ultimately I moved on. I actually wanted to kind of build my own business. Interestingly, um, when I was in my late 20s, I thought, I want to help people in the communities with finance and economics. And it led me to do a seminar at the age of 29, then to be on the radio. This was all while I was working full time at the telephone company. Uh, but the way I got on the radio was that I actually joined a network marketing company then called A.L. Williams. Had to get my insurance license and more financial background. And it led to me getting a weekly radio show. I wrote a newspaper column for Newspaper Philadelphia. And doing all of that led me to say, okay, you know what? When I got the opportunity, I was going to leave this telephone company and do that full time. And as I was doing that, I was approached by a cable company who said, they said, we have some underperforming cable TV operations. And this person happened to know my background from 10 years ago when I turned around my first assignment. And he said, I want you to do that out here. And I said, well, you know what? I met the owner, prominent entrepreneur. And I said, we'll do that. But that was the turning point for me, where it confirmed that this idea of going in and help people with their own mindset. When I went into that cable company, and they had numerous problems, customers, response problems and service problems. In fact, I'll never forget a letter I read when the fourth day with the company, I gathered the entire team together and I said, we need to fix all of these problems. Let me read to you one letter from a customer. And the letter wasn't addressed to the dear general manager or to whom it may concern. It said, to the most incompetent company in the world.
Oh, wow.
And I said to the team, we're going to fix this. I was told to fire some of those folks. When I stepped in there, I said, I'm not going to fire them. I'm going to turn them around. I can easily, wipe them out, bring in my own team. But what if I can change their attitudes, change their mindsets, to have them thinking more optimistically and with power, empowering themselves to accomplish? And we did. Out of 13 cable systems, they were ranked number 11, almost dead last. We moved them to number 2 in just a year and a half. And it was all through their thinking, changing their thinking to be more positive. So after numerous other assignments, it was about 14 years ago that I came across a fundraising opportunity for a company that had the intellectual property rights to positive psychology material that came out of the University of Pennsylvania's Positive Psychology Center, world-renowned positive psychology center led by the father of this new branch of psychology. He's considered the father of this new branch of psychology by the name of Martin Seligman. A woman by the name of Angela Duckworth, who wrote the book Grit, is his protege. Just a powerful group. They've done work with the US Army in positive psychology. And this group was raising money to commercialize this incredible information. Well, the bottom line is just about 5 years after that exposure, I had the opportunity to buy that company, and I did. And I created
Crazy.
PowerThinking to buy reflective learning and then control this powerful, powerful material.
Wow, that's cool. Yeah, absolutely. Like, so something, there was a foundation that you could work on. In other words, when you grab that, right? You've seen that the opportunity, but like you said, you're already building it, and the power of thinking that's powerful already. You don't even have those two together is massive, right? Because
Yes.
what you think about, right? So you could either spiral up or you can spiral down, depending
Based
on
on
your
our thinking.
thinking. Absolutely. And people don't realize that. And then when you start realizing that you can step outside of your thinking, you see where you're at, you can analyze what you're doing, you can insert a change, and you can build it back up. And exactly like you did with that team.
That's right. The same people that thought that, well, they were told by my predecessor that they were incompetent, they just couldn't do it, and uh, it was horrible. And that's what they thought about themselves. They wouldn't even respond to customers. And we changed it. We changed it very quickly. And we had them thinking about being more solutions focused as opposed to defeated. They would even tell me, I said, look, I'm going to go on the air and do a live show every month. And we're going to let the people call and talk about what's going on. And they said, don't do it. Don't do it. They're going to absolutely destroy you. The customers are. And I said, well, I want to hear it from them. And certainly I did it, within a few days. We hadn't fixed one thing and I was on the air. And the customers were just so shocked. They said, wait a minute, this is live. And here I am on the phone with the general manager. I'm not talking to someone that says, well, no, the person's not here. And I said, yes. And what I found was that number one, they appreciated it. Number two, they weren't as angry as they would have been, had they not been able to get to me. But the most
Damn.
important thing is that I modeled the behavior that our people needed to have. Hey, don't try to hide from them. You know, let's have the mindset that we want to hear the good and the bad, and we want to fix it. And it was the most amazing experience, and I've had a lot of great experience with teams, the most amazing that I've had, and the inspiration for what I do today in taking this to the world.
Oh, that's huge. That's huge. I think that's cool because you're right. Like a lot of people want to hide. They want to hide from that. But as you learn, as you know, within a company, you need to know the good and the bad so you can improve.
That's right.
What do you like? What don't you like? And but the team part, I think that's huge because, you were put into, like you said, they pretty much wanted to fire people. But were they looking at who was leading them?
They did as well. And here's the thing: the person who was leading them, he thought that, and he was over me. He was kind of a division manager, and I was a general manager, and he had other general managers under him. But the person that brought me in, the vice president, who worked for the owner, he was smart enough to know that as long as that person was still in the mix, it was going to be difficult for me to do what I needed to do because he was still the boss. So they encouraged him to retire.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
and once that happened, everything changed because people were kind of walking on eggshells. They didn't know who was quite in charge. As long as this person was still there, they called him incompetent. They had concerns. But once he was out, and I had them all, we started to see things change very, very quickly.
I bet. I bet. I could just imagine that. It's like, there's a difference between a manager and a leader, right?
That's
I'm not
right.
sure how that gentleman was, but it
He
sounds
was
like
he was a manager and a micromanager at that.
absolutely.
Sure.
And he's blaming them.
Yes, he was
Exactly.
blaming them, and it started with him. Actually, it started with him. Now, certainly for the good organizations that were running well, he was fine. But this was an organization that they inherited, or actually they bought, and they swapped out for another cable system, and they had a completely different way of doing things. And actually, the people there worked for a more prominent company, which is now, we know as Time Warner. And so their processes and procedures were great. And then they were acquired by like a mom and pop operation, but their mom and pop operation didn't want to admit that, maybe the ideas that these folks brought in were good and better. Um, I was open to all of that and embraced a lot of that. And the woman that they wanted me to fire, that they said was super negative, um, she was just frustrated. She was super smart and committed to customers, but she was lacking in some of the inner strengths that were identified in resilient people by University of Pennsylvania's Positive Psychology Center, like emotion regulation. She would get angry very quickly. And then the other inner strength of resilience is impulse control, the ability not to say or do the first thing that comes to mind. She was very weak in that area. She would say what she thought. It would upset other people, and then it would be off to the races. So it was interesting how as I do my resilience training, I can go back and think about the people, think about the organization collectively, as well as other organizations, and see where these inner strengths and skills were certainly appropriate, and it works whether you're talking personal, business, no matter what industry, if it's commission sales or a person in W-2, it is all about strengthening ourselves, our I, as I call it. There's the I and there's the R. There's the role that we play, which is the R, but then there's the I. No matter what role you play, it is who are you? What are you all about? What do you believe? How resilient, how positive are you?
Wow. Yeah, you got a lot of good stuff in there. And actually, yeah, you're right. It connects to everything,
Yes.
depending on what you're doing. And if you want to, you learn that system, you can branch into something new quite fast.
Oh, yes. Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, because the way I'm hearing you, if it's web to everything, then you can easily follow those trails to, where your vision wants to go, right? Who you
Exactly.
want to become in a sense.
Exactly. Because you'll have the tools, you'll possess the inner strengths that enables you to do anything. It doesn't matter what the role is, you can be good at it, because no matter what you do, you need to control your emotions when things get tough, and when you're under pressure, personally, in business. When you're not making sales, you've been rejected for 3 days in a row. That's when you're going to be challenged to call on that emotion regulation when you may be sad, angry, anxious, feeling that, this will never work out. This is when you're regulating that emotions, and those emotions are critical, and having the
Oh yeah.
skills to do that, and the impulse control. The biggest control of the impulse that has to be controlled, especially in commission sales and entrepreneurial endeavors, is the impulse to quit. So if things get tough, and the first thing folks are thinking is, I'm not cut out for this. I didn't think I could do it anyway. I'm out. My parents are saying, why don't you get a regular job? What are you doing with, doing this kind of stuff? You can't do that. And all that comes up again. And then the impulse is to just throw in the towel. And this is what we want to help. What we do is help people fight against that impulse, and avoid that impulse, and strengthen themselves against that impulse. I call it the IQ. We all hear about, when we're growing up. IQ is what we all strive for. Parents brag about their kid being smart and having a high IQ, the intelligence quotient. But what we find is that the intelligence quotient means very little when it comes to being involved in the endeavors that have the biggest payout. The people who are sitting on the sidelines, or sitting in the front row of the Super Bowl, basketball events, where I saw one little video about a fan heckling, LeBron James, of the Los Angeles Lakers. They pay the kind of money to be able to do that, and they're typically not W-2 people. They're folks who are self-made, entrepreneurs, the top salespeople. They can afford to do that, but it takes a certain mindset to be able to do it. It takes a different kind of IQ. It really doesn't matter how intelligent you are or not intelligent. The IQ that really matters when it comes to dealing in getting into the 1% in terms of income and wealth is the I quit quotient. It is the I quit level. What is your I quit level? If it's so high that no matter what's going to happen, you are not going to quit. You're not going to yield to that impulse to quit. That's a high IQ. And that's the IQ that really matters.
I love that. I love that. I never heard that part, IQ, because you know what? In athletes, professionals, training, there's exercise and then there's training, and there's definitely a difference, right? The guy who's exercising says, "Oh, I got to get my 3 days in. Oh, I can miss this one. I'll do 2 days this week." But the trainer says, "Rain or shine, I got to be there, 5 in the morning, no matter what. You
That's right.
know, we got to go 4. Okay, I need more time because I'm losing time, so I got to go at 4." I surrounded myself with association of people that are, a higher vibration of who I am. So it's drawing me up into that vibration, right? And these
Sure.
people are doing 100-mile runs. These people are doing Guinness Book of World Record, accomplishments, right? They're doing a ton of other things, but it's drawn me into that mindset, like you talk about, where I'm driving myself on a daily basis, not motivation anymore. The first week may be motivation. It may be, all right, we're fun. We're going to have this. We have a goal of 100 days. I'm going to do 500 push-ups a day. I'm going to get 50,000 push-ups by 100 days. I did that in 97 days, 3 days early. I got 50,004 push-ups. And I'll tell you, I didn't start at 500 a day. I started at 40 before. And then I worked myself up into the next month. I got up to 100 for a month. And then I went up to 200 for a month. And I went up to 3 halfway through that month. We said, oh, there's 100 days left. Let's, what can we do? I thought, well, I'm going to add 200 more onto this because 300 seems to be pretty easy right now. Well, let me tell you, it's just like anything. 30 days in, you're like, oh my goodness, right? I got 60 days left, or 70 days left, right? Your
Right.
mind starts playing with you. And that's where I think, you grow that callus, that you get rid of that I quit.
That's
Because
right.
I'm not quitting. I got 70 days to go, you know. And at one time, there was a couple of days I went out traveling and I couldn't do it. My highest was 1501 in one day.
Wow.
Yeah, and my last day, because I'm collecting data. Collecting data is such a powerful momentum system right there.
Yes,
You get to see your results instantly,
that's right.
right? So
Right.
I was like, that 3 days left. I'm like, it was 97 days. And I'm like, you know what? Let's see what we had. I knew I had to do 14.2 this month. I looked,
Mhm.
I'm like, I only have to do like 1,625 and I got it. So I
Wow.
did my five and I said, I'm going to do it because if I got it done early enough in the day, I had the whole day to finish up the rest.
Sure.
And I was
Sure.
I was pumped. But yeah, no, you're right, man. I think I love what you said. You know, um, but let's get into your resiliency school. What's
Sure.
that all about?
Sure. So, as it relates to resiliency school in Tokyo, they have something. The Japan Positive Psychology Association is one of my partners, and I've had an opportunity to go over there and do some seminars. And then they said, "Hey, we want to create a resiliency school here." So I'm the co-founder of that in Tokyo. I've done work in Beijing, China, and Chongqing, and currently we're in the process of creating micro lessons for the folks in Chongqing. Chongqing is probably the biggest city that people have never heard of.
I've
About
never heard
30,
of it.
30 million people in the
Wow.
Chongqing metropolitan area. Most of the big cities in China are big because they have 1.3 million people in the country, a billion people in the country. But yeah, 30 million in Southwest China. But amazing city, great people. I've done some work there. We had a middle school, K to 8 school with 800 kids, and invited their parents to a resiliency workshop that was on a Friday afternoon from 3 to 5 p.m. So they had to take off the afternoon. So think about here in the U.S. Or how many parents would take off half day of work to go to a workshop, school meeting. We had 200 parents in
Wow.
Chongqing that
Wow.
did that. So amazing. But in the United States, the focus was on business initially. So how can we take the power thinking resilience and apply it to business? Because what we found, what the other company, the reason why I was able to buy the other company was because, quite frankly, they weren't as successful as they expected to be, and their investors had invested tons of money because you would think, wow, we have this evidence-based material that can change the world. Let's start with companies and their employees. And while many companies said, wow, this is good stuff, yeah, it makes sense. We want people to be more resilient. When it came to the point where they needed to, make the investment, they'd go, well, you don't know if we quite have the budget. So at the end of the day, every single living, breathing human being on the planet needs this. But the reality is that they don't know they need it.
Mm.
Most people think that they're okay.
Right,
You
right,
know,
right.
most people that come into entrepreneurial commission sales endeavors believe that maybe they can do it. They'll give it a try, but they don't understand the incredible mindset shift that has to occur for most of them. They
Mm.
think that they're okay, but they're far, far from it. People think that they're okay when they drive down the road and the highway and somebody cuts them off and they get angry and they're ready to retaliate or shake a fist or give the finger or curse, and they think that that's natural. That, well, they push my buttons and that's how I react. That's just the way it is. I really don't need any training. And the reality is that they could have responded differently. They could
Absolutely.
have responded with no negative emotion at all. But most people don't realize that. And that's been the challenge. So in the United States, we decided to start with commission sales. So I actually joined. I said, this would be great for commission sales because there's such high turnover. When you're talking about any entrepreneurial endeavor, people say, I'm going to go into business. I want to start this business. And I'm going to make millions. but they don't realize that the skills of resilience are absolutely necessary because most people just get in their own way and they get in their own head. And ultimately, when they have a few setbacks, they yield that they have a low IQ and they yield to that temptation to just throw in the towel and quit.
Mm.
And so many business, significant number of businesses within the first year, they're out. Significant number of commissioned salespeople. They get started, they get going, and they hit a few roadblocks. They get a few rejections. The people, like their warm leads, their family members and friends who they thought, well, they love me, they trust me, they're going to be in, and they say no, they're out. They say, well, I can't get them. How can I get a person that I'm just going to cold call? And they yield to that. So I thought that that would be a good start. So as opposed to going to a company, a sales type company, and saying to them, hey, this would be great for your people because we all know that there's high turnover. People are just not, they don't come in with the right mindset. As much as you try to pump them up and make them feel good and show that other people are successful, it still doesn't do enough for them to keep them. So I said, you know what I'm going to do to myself? I'm going to join a company as a commission only salesperson. Now, mind you, I've been the CEO of a synthetic turf company. In fact, I was the chairman of the board of the Synthetic Turf Council, the industry trade association for synthetic turf. So we see football fields, soccer fields, and schools. We built two practice fields for the Kansas City Chiefs, who are
Nice.
embarking upon their second Super Bowl. Dick Vermeil, famous Super Bowl winning coach for the greatest show on turf, the St. Louis Rams back in the day, was one of my board members. I mean, so I've been there and I've had salespeople work for me and sales teams, but never have I ever been a commission only salesperson
Mm.
who had depend only on my ability to get a sale. But I needed to do this to see if this material would work on me.
Interesting. I like this direction that you're going. You
Sure.
know,
And
absolutely. It's creating your own hypothesis, right?
correct,
Mm.
correct. And it did. So 4 years ago, I joined Aflac and I became a commission only sales rep. Within a few months, I was rookie of the month. And they would ask
Oh.
the question, they said, oh, so Stan, what's your secret? And I said, it's winning the mental battle that goes on in my head every day. So every
Absolutely.
day that a person in sales is a person that's an entrepreneur, every day they experience, the average person over the course of, you give them 6 months, they're going to experience adversity. They're going to have setbacks, they're going to have disagreements with a significant other and have to kind of recover from that. They may have said something wrong to their significant other, and now, it escalated and they're talking to each other for a couple of weeks and they got to figure out how to get back on track. There's all kinds of things that go on in life. But a person who's in sales or is in entrepreneurship, all of those adversities or the numbers of adverse situations are compressed in a single day.
Mm.
So it's compounded. And so there's a need to really examine what goes on in those 50,000 thoughts of an entrepreneur and to have them be able to overcome the thoughts that can take them back, set them back. And so then I found that it could work. And so then what was interesting is that the regional coordinator of sales in central Pennsylvania sent out an article electronically to all of the salespeople in that region. And it was about resilience. And one of the quotes was by the person whose team created the material that I had the rights to,
Oh,
Martin Seligman.
wow.
So I responded to say, hey, this is what I do. And the material came out of Martin Seligman's center. And I said, I'd love to talk to you. I said, and it was in 2017. At that point, I was about to go to Chongqing, China, And I said, I'm going to China to teach this stuff. Love to talk about how we can apply it in your organization, maybe pilot it. And he said, sure, let's talk. And so when I came back, we talked and we set a date. It was October 2017 for the first pilot of this material with a group of a combination of new salespeople, some folks that have been there a while, but kind of careers going sideways. And we put them through this training, and we had some amazing results. People who would have otherwise quit stayed. People who weren't producing much improved their productivity significantly. Um, and then by 2019, the first of all, a beginning of 2018, at a kickoff, a few of the folks who were in the program and the pilot gave testimonies. And at the end of it, the person who's in charge of the market for half the state of Pennsylvania for Aflac actually came up to me as I was walking back to my seat. He met me halfway, shook my hand. He said, "Oh my gosh, that was great." He said, "We have to get this incorporated into our new associate training." And by 2019, that's what we did. And now,
Wow.
just today, I got a response back from the person that's vice president of the territory of 10 states, who said, okay, because I sent him one of the testimonies from a person who was going to quit, but whose boss said, you have to join the Stan's calls. And she joined them. This is from 2019 to today. And she had accounts, opened up accounts that few people could open up back during the pandemic of last year, and said it was in part due to what we did. So now at the territory level, 10 states, it's being considered.
That's incredible. I didn't know we were going to talk about Aflac. I didn't realize what you do has, been implemented in with Aflac. As you're aware, I do strategic partnerships with Aflac because we're very similar in a lot of ways, right? The same license, same, kind of flow, same commission base as well. So absolutely, I understand the power of what you've created and how it can implement into that entrepreneurial platform that Aflac has, because we're about leadership development on our platform. Because you're right, how you feel inside is how you actually, your emotions, it controls everything. And more we become controlled on our emotions and get a higher IQ, like you say, which I love. People say, oh, you think you got a high IQ? I go, absolutely do. But it took a lot of training, a lot of thinking, a lot of push. I tell people it's a daily practice.
That's
It's a
right.
daily practice. It doesn't matter how rich you are and what you're involved. They're still dealing with it, but they're dealing with it faster.
Right.
They're not like, it's like failing forward fast. Like that failing forward fast could be 1 second.
Right.
Could be saying, okay, dismiss, 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 ego, dismiss. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. But what you said was you wanted to test it, and you wanted to test it on one of the hardest hit in an emotional person, right? Everybody, they don't know what they got until they actually get involved in some sort of, commission base where it's up to you. You don't do it, yeah, you're gone. So you
You'll
have to be
starve.
resilient in that, right? You'll
Right.
starve. How hungry are you, right? It's
That's
so
right.
true. But another thing I know about creating a hypothesis, it becomes bias. So when you create a hypothesis, you're pretty much pushing yourself to make that happen,
That's
right?
right.
Which, and you've shown it, and they've, accepted it and honored it and implemented. I commend you on that. I think that's incredible. That's really, really wonderful to hear, because I see a lot of speakers talk about that to sales teams and stuff, but I've never seen it where it's been, you got into the trenches.
Oh yeah. Right. That's rare. I mean, everyone, companies will come in and they'll start with the top and make their pitch, have their PowerPoints and have their data, and then do their thing. But I started in the field in the trenches with everyone else, and that gave me credibility, because they say, okay, he knows what we do. He's experienced it. I've had a warm lead that turned into an account within my first 6 weeks. And I've had another account where within after my seventh follow-up, and unfortunately people don't even go 7 follow-ups. They'll follow up three or four times, and it's like, okay, they're not interested. I'm done. I got an appointment, and this was a 45-person eye surgery center.
Mm.
And I was so excited. And, it was the day of the meeting. I had a meeting at 1 o'clock with the eye surgery center at 10 a.m. in what was called the Career Builders Club meeting with the Aflac folks, where they would go around the room and ask, okay, what's your good news? I say, hey, I got an appointment today, 1 o'clock. It took 7 tries, but I got it. And super excited to say, oh, Stan, that's great. It's great. I'm going to go out. And in the lobby, I thought I'd just check my voicemail. So I checked my voicemail. And sure enough, I got a message from the woman that is the administrator for the eye surgery center. And what do you think that message said?
No, she said no.
No, not quite that bad, but she said, our meeting is off. It's canceled. I apologize. I had a training that I forgot about. She said, however, I'll send you an email with some new dates. And I said, great. Well, 24 hours go by. You think I saw an email? No. 48 hours, email? No. Now I reach out. I call, leave a voicemail message. I send an email, no response. So now we're up to about 9 or so follow-ups. We go months, emails, calls, messages. Stop in. I stopped in one day. They said she was in a meeting. I said, okay, great. I'll just sit here and wait. 10 minutes later, one of our people escorted me out of the building.
Wow.
So now we
Totally.
go on. This was maybe now, this all started about May of 2017. We're into November, nothing. Now it's holidays. It's December 2017. I said, okay, let's try this. Maybe I can get a response. Happy holidays. And at least that I can get back would be, oh, same to you. Nothing. We go into 2018 holidays and follow-ups all up to that point. Phone calls, emails. Now, most people would have done what? Quit.
Mm.
I stayed with it. Holiday message, 2018. Nothing. It was June of 2019. I was on my way to another appointment, which was nearby. And I thought, now most people would think, that one's done. I'm done with them. I'm moving on. My thought was, hey, I'll stop in. What do I have to lose? I stopped in, and I'll never forget the receptionist, Ginger. Ginger, is she in? And she looked down and she said, I haven't seen her all day. And of course, what's the immediate thought then? Oh boy, I'm struck out again. But she said, let me go back and check. She went back to her office. She came back and gave me this wave. I'll never forget. Come on back.
No.
And she said, you have 1 minute. I said, okay, no problem. I go in and the woman asks, so do you have short-term disability and long-term disability? Now the company has short-term disability, but doesn't offer long-term. So what do you think my response was? Yes, we have it. Because we may not sell the long-term, but we could partner with, we have partners that have it. So the answer
Right.
is yes. The next day we set up the account and they had 45 people, but they said, look, we'll probably get 3. And that's all we needed to form a group. What I pitched was that, why don't your company offer, the employees a defined contribution, a budget, and they can go on a shopping spree. And they said, no way. But weeks later, she asked about it and then said, I told her about it again. And she checked with the owner of the surgery center. He said yes. So that meant every single person got $50 a month to spend on
Wow, that's
us.
awesome.
I became a top producer of the region, and my picture was up with these folks that you would see. You know how, when you're hearing, the top producer, you hear the same names all the time, right? Boom, boom. And you're like, one day I'd like to crack that and be right there with them. And I
Absolutely.
did. And my picture is up on the wall as the top. Because of that account, we're over a period of 2 years, I didn't give up. And the total number of follow-ups, all documented in the CRM system, was 88. I followed up
Wow.
88 times over 2 years and happened to land the biggest account that I've ever landed.
See, that's incredible. And I always say it's about numbers, really. It took me 9 years to do this, 7 years to do that, 5 years to do this, because you don't know. You just keep going until all of a sudden you surpass the success that you were aiming for.
That's right.
You don't stop on the success, you surpass it because the growth is in those years. That 88, you built such resiliency in that 88.
That's right.
You weren't the same person on the first friggin', on the first meeting, right? Or the first contact. But 88 contacts later, you were an improved machine.
That's right.
Oh,
And
I
here's
love
the
that. I
thing,
love that
Robert.
story.
Now, at the end of all of this, we got the enrollment done. And what she said to me at the end of it was, so I guess I can delete those 80 plus messages, right? I said, and I laughed and I said, oh, of course. And she said, Stan, every time you left a message and I picked that message up, I thought, oh, that's right. We have to do something with Aflac. And also that Stanley Greene, Stanley Greene's the guy. And, but I didn't realize it when I first met her. She was just starting with the business, really haven't developed any trust with the ownership and so forth. And now, fast forward 2 years later, they trusted her, and the timing was right. It's all about timing. And by following up, the goal is, as long as they don't tell you, don't you ever come back here again, we will shoot you if we ever see you again. That you follow up. Even folks that have said no a few times. Uh, it is all about timing, and it just
Yeah.
happened to be the right time that I stopped back. And that was a lesson to me because there was time, even though I teach this stuff and I talk about all the thinking traps that we can fall into, they still happen. And I was thinking, wow, she really doesn't want this because she doesn't even respond to me. She doesn't respect me because she's not responding. Those thoughts, you can't help them from,
Hmm.
from coming into your mind, but it's what you do with them that counts.
Right,
So
right. A lot
that
of
one really took it over the top for me, and it was a great example I used with the new trainees with Aflac because I experienced it, and I know that it can be done because I did it.
Absolutely, absolutely, man. I think that's great. What a fabulous story, and I love how you went into the trenches and that you drew yourself up. You really you push yourself into an experience, right? And like you say, now that you've had that experience, you can express it in a great way. Because I went to college and people were teaching me stuff that they never even done. And then I went to another college where I was getting consultants teaching me. People that were
Mhm.
actually out there building a business are showing us what they're actually doing. And that's pretty much what you're doing. That's what the power thinking, that's what the resiliency school is about. Now you've been in there, you put it to work, you did it. You didn't tell someone else to go do it and see if it works. You put yourself in there and I'm sure you just love that you did because
Oh yeah,
the growth you got from it,
right.
you
No
know?
one can tell me, that it can't be done.
Mhm.
They can't say, "Well, you don't know what you're talking about. You haven't walked in my shoes. You don't know our business. So what kind of authority are you?" Well, I have, and if I've walked in the shoes of an Aflac salesperson and have been one, then I can do with any sales because it's the same process.
Absolutely.
It is
Absolutely.
numbers and persisting, persevering, and being resilient. You take those skills and you can put them anywhere. And what it means is that I never have to worry about whether I have the ability to generate income or being fired. So number one, I'm not going to work for anybody else, uh, but being laid off. And I always know that I have the ability to generate commission income, but also residual income.
Hmm.
And so, just this morning, check the bank account, boom, my monthly residual right there. Doesn't care about a pandemic, as long as people are paying the bills, you get paid. Uh,
Absolutely.
and that's the one element that a lot of people just completely miss about um, entrepreneurship,
Yep.
particularly about commission sales and businesses that offer residuals, where you get a small percentage of the amount that your customers are paying each and every month, not just the upfront commission, but that residual as well.
Right. And that's why it makes us a great strategic partnership because we do the same.
Yeah,
And could you imagine double the engine,
that's
but
oh yeah,
not
definitely.
double the workload?
That's why I affiliated with WFG as well, because I had the way I got there was number one, that I had a person who, because I opened this, what I do with Power Thinking, up to the general public, and anybody interested would just go to www.powerthinkingcorp. It's powerthinkingcorp.com, and at $9.95 a month they can become a member.
Mm.
And one person did this, and just so happened to be with WFG. And as opposed to her jumping to the conclusion that because I'm doing all that I'm doing, I wouldn't be interested, she one day sent me a link and said, "Hey, this is what I'm doing. You may want to check it out." And my first thought was, "Come on now, you know that I'm busy with all the other things that I'm doing. Why would you do this?" It was smart on her part. She didn't, and this is one of the thinking traps that people can fall into, jump to a conclusion that just because I'm involved with other things that I wouldn't be interested in checking this out. And another thinking trap that people fall into, and there are 8 of them, this is one of the skills of resilience, is she didn't mind read. She didn't say, "Okay, I think I know what he's thinking. He won't be interested."
Mm.
I clicked it and I'm like, whoa, I've never seen anything like this. You mean unlike something like a Primerica or, what was then AL Williams, there's one company you're affiliated with. You mean there's Transamerica and there's Pacific Life and there's Mutual of Omaha and Lincoln
Hmm.
and Nationwide.
Yep.
Wow, you're almost like a broker.
Pretty much is a broker. It is a broker.
It's a broker.
Yeah. Largest broker across the United States.
And how much does it cost to get in? That all? And how much per month? Is that all? This makes a lot of sense. And I affiliated because I had some clients that I could not, get life insurance for because the guidelines were relatively tight, and I could go to others. I'm affiliated with Kemper. Before WFG came along, I got appointed with Kemper, and through Kemper, I was able to get folks insurance where they couldn't before. So with WFG, I have the same opportunity. It's a tremendous opportunity for people to become something that they otherwise wouldn't even think about becoming, and having a career that could be very, very lucrative, and at the same time, help other people through big, established, well-known brands. That's one of the
Absolutely.
beauties of it. So,
Absolutely.
I didn't intend to be giving you WFG a plug, but I mean, it is what it is, and I'm still affiliated with them as well as ACN and Legal Shield. I don't have the time to spend with all of them, but I love their business models.
The value.
The average person can have a virtual and a home-based business where they can use their computers and their phones and have money direct deposited into their bank accounts. But it requires an incredible mindset shift, and a resilience that they've never experienced. And that's where power thinking comes in.
We can almost say if someone's interested, they can get on Aflac, they can get in WFG. We got the platforms, we got the stuff, and we got the value to really push towards, market it, the service, the value. And you know what they say, money doesn't follow, value doesn't follow money. Money follows value. So
Right.
when you have that value, it's incredible where you can go. And like you said, the residuals. And I didn't know we were going to go this direction, but it's amazing when you have a good conversation how it just flows, right? Where can people find you? I know you mentioned PowerThinking was PowerThinking Corp. Dot.
PowerThinking Corp, corp.com. And I can be reached. Actually, anyone can text me their first and last name. I'll get you on a texting list so that you can receive automatic texts about my Wednesday calls. It's open and free to anyone, not just people in commission
I
sales,
got
but
it.
anyone. Did you? Good, good, good. And that's www.powerthinkingcorp.com. And you can scroll down, you can click a link that'll give you an automatic sign up, but you can just text me at 215, area code 215 219 8409, 215 219 8409. Text your first and last name. I will get you on the texting list manually. You'll get a video, 2 to 5 minute video on a Tuesday night. Wednesday morning, you'll get reminders about our 7:30 to 8 a.m. call, our 9:30 p.m. to 10 p.m. call. Feel free to join us. We have hundreds of people on from all over the country and even other parts of the world and different industries. And you'll learn the 7 inner strengths of resilience, but also specific skills. Just like an athlete practices certain things every day, there's specific mental skills that we'll share with you each week that you'll build upon, and that you'll develop an ingrained muscle memory. You'll retrain your brain over a 4 to 6 month period, and you'll be able to bounce back from any adversity.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Hey guys, I'm definitely someone who's on his list. I would suggest you use that, get the phone number, pop it in, get your name in there, get on the list, start understanding a little bit. There's so much value out there. It depends on what you put in your mind, right? And definitely power thinking is something you want to put in your mind. You want to get that IQ up, right? So you don't even think about it. It's so high up, you can't reach it. That's where you want to be, man. That's where you want to be. No more I quit stuff. But I want to thank you, Stan, for being on the show today. I want everybody to, subscribe to the Robert Timmons Show. Every week we have amazing people, guests like Stan on here, providing so much empowering value. And we really appreciate you, Stan, for being here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Really appreciate it.
Hey guys, thanks for sticking around. If you'd like to see more podcast interviews, you can check them out right here. They're exactly what you need to hear next. And if you're new here, hit subscribe and become part of the community, and tell me what you think about the podcast interviews in the comments below. I read all of them every week. And join my Mind Power Mastery group by hitting the link in the description.